second. Okay, the recording has started. Thank you, Sarah, for the reminder once again. So happy Wednesday, halfway through the week. It's September 30th. We're hitting the books. We are making our way through the start of Unit 2. You guys have been awesome so far this year. Welcome in to those who are getting their laptops, getting onto class live. It's really good to see you. We're up to, let's see, 14 kids in class live at this point. That is awesome. Super excited for you guys getting access and getting online. Today's plan, the daily agenda, classwork for today, we're going to look at 4.2.1, fractions represented. It's page 4 in the packet, and it's in the workbook as well. This is in the packet that went out an hour and 57 minutes ago. So if you haven't been to school in the last hour and 57 minutes, you don't have the new packet that has this in it. Fortunately, if you have your workbook, this is in your workbook. I think it's page 42 is where we're going to start today, page 42. I'll write that down when we go to OneNote and I can do the notes for you. But page 42 is where I need you to start. The vocab for today, you'll see it towards the end of class, numerator and denominator. Okay, those are pieces of fractions. We've been working with fractions the last couple of days with the 3rd grade material. Now we're getting into the 4th grade book again. Numerator and denominator are our main words for the day. Sarah's holding up the page right now. That is the right page, page 42. It's a warm-up about the number 1/2. Okay, we'll get to that in 1 second. Target for today. We are going to name fractions and represent them visually by completing this assignment 4.2.1. We might go a little bit long today. I apologize, but we have a lot to get through today. I want to make sure that we understand it. Homework, I assigned it yesterday, identify and shade fractions. I've seen a few of you already open it and get started on it. That's awesome. It is due tonight at midnight. Remember, the expectation is as we get more and more people online using technology with the computers, we're doing our homework in teams. Okay, I could see packets kind of phasing out over the next week or two because there are more kids that are on the computer, have access to Teams, and can complete their work there. Okay, so if you have access to a computer, which it looks like everyone here does, please be doing that homework in Teams. All right, and then the assignment we're going to do today is fractions represented. It's page 4 in the packet. If you're going to get the packet, it's page 44 in your workbook. Fernando, do you have a question before we get started?
Yes. What workbook?
So there was a night, Thursday night, a couple weeks ago, where I handed out, the notebook or workbook with our classwork in it. So if you weren't able to go to that, then you wouldn't have it, or if you didn't go to the conferences that we had at the start of the year, then you wouldn't have it as well. But if you would like a workbook, and I would encourage you to get one, I can put one in the office for you and have you and a parent or brother and sister come by and grab it. Okay. But right now, I'm going to show everything I do on the screen. So if you follow along on the screen, you'll see everything. And then the assignment that you have to do is on Teams. I just posted it right at the start of class. So you can do everything on Teams for the assignment. So you really don't need the workbook. It's just the same exact thing we're going to cover, but in paper form in front of you. Okay? Okay. Let's look at this warm up here. Remember, it's page 42. I'm actually going to write that in a different color so it stands out. Page 42 in your workbook if you have the 4th grade workbook. Page 42. Each of our units, have different sections to it. This one has 3 sections. We are in section A, all about size and location of fractions. Okay, size and location of fractions. So understanding what a fraction looks like in a model form. What does 1/2 look like? What does 2/3 look like? So on. So we're going to be using a lot of different maybe like strips of paper or rectangles or things of that nature where we can outline what fractions are, shading them to represent what 2/3 looks like, what 3/4 looks like, and so on. This first lesson here is beginning to look at fractions, representations of fractions. So this warm up that we're going to do, I ask the question, what do you know about 1/2 or 1/2? What do you know about 1/2? And what I want from you guys is thinking about, how does 1/2 relate to 1? Is it bigger than 1? Is it less than 1? Where do you see 1/2 in the world around you? What does 1/2 mean? Anything that's related to a half. Okay, so I'll give you about 30 or 40 more seconds. Think about, where have I seen 1/2 in the world around me? Or what does it mean? What do I know about 1/2? Then I'll call on some people, and those people will be earning points to hatch their Pokemon egg. And while you're doing that, I have to do something else real fast. What do you know about 1/2? I only see 2 hands up right now. I want to see some more hands. I know you guys know what 1/2 means. I know that you have seen 1/2 in the world around you. I want to hear some of your thoughts. Let's start with, let's go with Elizabeth first. Elizabeth. Just a second. I'm going to close out a Class Dojo on here because I can hear a little ding every time I give you a point. So I'll load that back up at the end of class. Okay, Elizabeth, what do you know about 1/2? Where have you seen it? Anything that you know?
1/2 is a fraction.
Okay, 1/2 equals a fraction. So 1/2 is a fraction. All right, very good, Elizabeth. Great start. You already earned a point. Let's go to Katie. What do you know about 1/2?
I know about 1/2 is
Where have you seen 1/2 in the world around you?
I've seen a half. Sometimes I see halves in my sister's workbook that she uses for her class or school.
Okay.
And
So
I've seen.
Go ahead.
And I have seen it in. I've seen it somewhere instead of my sister's workbook, but I don't remember where.
Okay, so you've seen it in math workbooks?
Yes.
Okay. So it has something to do with math. All right. Fernando, where have you seen 1/2? You're on mute, but I can't hear you.
Sorry.
That's okay.
At the school.
Okay, what about at the school? Where at?
In class.
Okay, so in class then. I want to, let's go to Camila this time. Let's see if we can get on the train that got first block going. They started talking about one thing in particular here.
I know about 1/2 is that it's just any shape with a line in the middle.
Okay, any shape with a line in the middle. So if we were to take a shape like a rectangle, and you said a line in the middle like that, then each of those pieces, let's say I colored this left side in red, that left side is 1/2 and the white side is 1/2.
Yes.
Yep, very good, Camila. You earned a point, and then I owe Fernando a point as well. Nice job. Adelina, where have you seen 1/2, or what do you know about 1/2?
Our Earth is a sphere, and if you cut in between, there's 2 halves.
What is a sphere?
There's 1/2 of it. A sphere is a ball, basically. I don't
Oh,
have
you
a
said a
ball.
sphere.
Yeah, it's a sphere, and if you cut it, there's 2 halves. There's one,
So
and
have
then there's
you
2
heard-
pieces.
Yeah. So have you heard of the word hemisphere?
Yes, I heard. Yes, I have.
Where have you heard of the word hemisphere?
Hemisphere. I feel like I've heard it in. I feel like I've heard it in one of the classes as I was passing by to go to the bathroom sometimes. I heard them talking about hemispheres and stuff.
Okay, so like if we had, here's a quick little drawing of kind of, the world real fast. Pretend that, we got the ocean filled in and all that. So a hemisphere, so this is a sphere, this is a quick drawing of the Earth. If we were to cut this in half like that and take this off, and then we'd have something kind of like this. We have all the stuff in the middle, and then we still have, South America down here, blah, 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 right? You get the point. A hemisphere is a word that we use to describe half of the Earth. So we have a northern hemisphere, we have a southern hemisphere. And when we cut it in half like so, we have half of the world on top, half the world on the bottom. Yeah, that's how we describe different areas on the globe, on the Earth. So that's exactly right. If we took half of or cut the sphere, that is Earth in this case, in half, we'd have half on top, half on the bottom. And one way that we see halves in the real world is through the use of a hemisphere, where you break the world into a top and a bottom piece that are each the same size. So great job, Adelina. Was that kind of the point you were making, cutting a sphere in half?
Yep.
Yep, very nice, very nice. I hope you appreciated my drawing too.
Yes.
I'm an artist in my
Nice.
spare time.
Yeah, really.
Okay. I see that there's a few more hands up. I want to keep moving though, because we have a lot to get through. This was a great discussion. One thing that came up in first block that I said really got them going was talking about food. We talked about food for halves pretty much the entire time first block. We talked about chocolate bars and how they're portioned out in their little pieces like a Hershey bar, and you can break it in half. Give half to your brother or sister, keep half for you. We had, what was another one? Pizza was another one. If you ate half of a pizza, you would have the pizza as a circle, cut it in half, and you would take 1/2. Maybe your mom or dad took the other half. And we talked about, what else? I think sharing a drink, or I talked about my coffee, how I had finished half of my coffee so far. So food is a great way of looking at fractions in the real world. It's very applicable. There are fractions all around us. So this is a great discussion here. We're going to move on down to the next page, page 43 in your workbook. So flip the page in your workbook. Like I said, I don't think you'll have your packet quite yet, but it is in your packet, or will be in your packet. Here's what I need you to do. Okay, if we were in class right now, I would give you strips of paper to use to have a visual form. Unfortunately, we can't do that at this time. So what I would like you to do, I've already done it down here, is draw these 4 rectangles in that open space, or on a sheet of paper if you don't have the workbook. Okay, I want you to draw 4 long rectangles. Leave a little space in between, maybe not a ton of space, but space them out a little bit. But draw these 4 rectangles for me, please. I'll give you about a minute to do that. Just in the margin below at the bottom of the worksheet. You can see it there. There's some room on the page. So I need everybody to do that right now. 4 rectangles. And I see Sarah working hard, so I'm going to give her an extra point for being on task and doing her work. So nice job, Sarah. Same with Camila. So nice work, girls. Fernando, you have a question? You're on mute. I can't hear you.
I'll save it until the end of class because it's not an answer. It's a question.
Okay, yeah, just remind me before you go. Camila, do you have a question?
I just wanted to say that I'm done.
Awesome. Yeah, I was just about to wrap it up. Thanks for letting me know. Okay, let's read the directions. So you should have 4 rectangles, kind of the same type of length, like a long strip of paper. Let's look at what we're going to do with this. So 1.1 fraction strips. Your teacher will give you strips of paper. Each strip represents 1. Like I said, I can't give you that. That's why I had you draw those 4 rectangles for me. Each strip represents 1. Okay, so just like in days before where we were looking at rectangles and cut them up into thirds or cut them up into fourths or whatever it was, we said that that whole rectangle or the square, whatever we were using, represented 1. And so when we cut it up into pieces, those pieces were fractions that added up together to make the whole piece. Make the whole piece of paper, the rectangle, whatever it is that we're using. So in this case, each of these rectangles that we drew down below represents 1. Okay. Use the strips to represent halves, fourths, and eighths. Okay. What is a half? How would I write a half as a fraction? Malia?
1/2 of
Yeah,
1?
So in fraction form, I would have 1 on top and then what on the bottom?
1/4?
1 on top. If I'm looking for a half, I have 1 on top and then I have what number on the bottom of the fraction?
4?
So that would be fourths, 1/4. I'm looking for 1/2. We just had a warm up about it. If I go up top here, what do you know about 1/2?
That it's like the shape of an earth.
So we can take half of something and we have 2 equal pieces, right? We have 2 equal pieces if we cut it in half. So if we were cutting something in half, right? Let's say we have a rectangle, we cut it in half. We have black side on the left, white side on the right. We said in previous worksheets that the top number on the fraction is the amount that is shaded. So the number of shaded pieces. And if we cut it in half, there's 1 shaded piece, right? And on the bottom, it is the number of parts in, oops, I ran out of room, in the whole. So how many total parts are there that make up the whole rectangle?
2.
Yeah, there are 2 parts that make up the whole rectangle, right? So if we're only talking about one of those parts, then we have 1 shaded, so that's why it's 1 on top, out of the 2 possible parts. Does that make the whole, right? So we have 1 over 2, 1/2. Okay, nice work. Camila, do you want to help with the fourths?
Yeah.
So
So
how would I write that as a fraction?
1 on top
Okay, 1 on top.
and 4 for the whole.
Yeah, there are 4 of those fourths that make a whole, so the 4 would be on the bottom. Nice job. And what about eighths, Camila?
1 on the top and 8 for the whole.
Yeah, 1 on the top, 8 on the bottom. There's 1 shaded piece out of 8 total that make the whole. So when it says use the strips to represent halves, fourths, and eighths, these are the fractions it wants. So we want to cut it up into halves, we want to cut it up into fourths, and cut it up into eighths. Okay, so let's move down into our rectangles down here that we drew. And what I want us to do first and foremost is on this first rectangle, I want you to put a big fat 1 right in the middle, because that's our reference unit. Looks like Frank's having some issues. So this is our reference unit rectangle. Let me type a chat to Frank real fast, because I can see he's having issues hearing. Okay. So like I said, this top rectangle, I want you to put a big fat 1 there, because that's our unit rectangle. That represents 1 whole. We're not cutting it up at all. This is just 1. So what I want us to do in this next one here is cut it up into halves. Okay, I wrote a little 1/2 next to it. How could I cut this rectangle up into halves? Let's go Jocelyn. I see your hand popping up. Jocelyn, where would I have to cut this to make halves?
In the middle, make it
Did you say in the middle? It kind of glitched out.
in the middle.
In the middle?
Yeah.
So about right there?
Yes.
I would agree. Nice job, Jocelyn. So I want you all to label this along with me, okay? We have it cut into halves, and I labeled each of my parts as 1/2. Nice job, Jocelyn. And I'm going to give points to Sarah, Camila, Jocelyn, and Fernando, because I can see their cameras. I can see that they're working hard, as well as Elizabeth there. So they get points for being on task. Nice job to you 5. Let's look at fourths now. Okay, this next one we need to cut into fourths. How can I cut this rectangle into 4 equal parts? Fernando, go for it, bud. You're on mute. You need to come off mute.
Cut it 2 times.
Cut it 2 times?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where would I need to cut it?
Next to the middle.
On the left side, like over here?
Or on the second, where you have the 2s, right there on the bottom.
Like that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then on the other side too? Is that what she said?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's it?
One of 4. One in the middle?
And then one in the middle? Like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree. There are 4 equal pieces, because remember that bottom number, that 4 and the 1/4, represents how many equal parts it takes to make the whole. So I see 4 equal parts that make the whole. So therefore, I say that's a great representation of 1/4. Nice work, Fernando. And then what about 1/8? So if I were to cut up this last one into eighths, how would I need to cut this up? Let's go with Eileen on this one. Go for it, Eileen.
You cut it in the middle. Then you cut one on the left.
Like where I cut the 1/4?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then the other one in the right. And then you cut one, like where the middle one is, you cut one next to it.
So like right there?
Yeah. And then you do that on the rest of them.
Okay, so you keep cutting down the middle on the other parts to make them equal?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree. That is great. Like I said earlier, and I'll repeat it again, that bottom number, that 8, represents how many equal parts are needed to fill the entire rectangle, fill that unit, right? So if I say, is this a good representation of 1/8 size pieces? Then I would count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I see 8 equal rectangles that make a full rectangle of 1 unit. So yes, I would agree. This is a great representation of 1/8 pieces. Okay, real quick. What do you notice about this representation here? What do you notice? Does anything stand out? Do you notice anything? Do you wonder anything? Are there any patterns that you see? Like, what do you see when you see this this representation? Let's go up to Sarah.
That the first one only has 1, the second one has 2, and then the the third one has 4, and then the last one has 8.
Okay, that is interesting. They're growing. Are they growing by a certain rate or anything? Or is there a pattern to getting from one to the next? What is that pattern, Sarah? How do we get from 1 to 2?
By counting.
Okay, by counting. Do you see any patterns there? No pattern? Let's go. I see a few hands up. Fernando, do you see a pattern? I see your hands up, but I'm not sure if it was up from earlier. What's the pattern, Fernando? Nice job, Sarah.
It's subtracting 1 from each. Like first, it's just 1, so you don't do anything. On the second, there's 2, so you only do 1 line. On the 4, you do 3, and then on 8 you do 7.
Okay, so the lines that we drew to separate it, you said that the number of lines it took to cut it up into those equal shapes is one less line than the number of pieces we need. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
So 2 needs 1 line to cut it. 4 needs 3 lines. And 8 needs 7 lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great way of thinking about when you are going to partition these shapes into their equal sections. Look at how many pieces you need and subtract one of them or one from it, and that's the number of lines that you need to draw. That's a good pattern that we see. Very nice. Any other patterns before I move on to numerator and denominator and making those vocab terms known to you? Elizabeth, I see your hands up. Go for it, and then we'll get on to the next piece.
I say that if 1 plus 1 equals 2, 2 plus 2 equals 4, 4 plus 4 equals 8.
Yeah, so we're adding by the number that we're starting with to get to the next number.
Yeah.
Okay, so we could try adding like you did, and that's a great way of thinking about it. But is there a number that we're multiplying by each time? How do we get from 1 to 2 by multiplication? Any ideas, Elizabeth?
No.
What do we need to multiply 1 by to get to 2? 1 times what?
1 times 2.
Yeah, we multiply by 2 there. Now, how do we get from 2 to 4 by multiplication? 2 times what
2
equals 4?
2 times 4.
Well, 2 times
4.
2 times blank equals 4. What's this number here? What's the blank?
2?
Yeah, 2 times 2 would equal 4. And then what's 4 times what number equals 8?
4 times 2.
Right, so each of these times, we're cutting our pieces into half, right? We started with 1 whole, we cut it in half. We started with halves, so this chunk here, and we cut it in half to get to fourths, right? Then we took 1/4 and cut it in half and got to eighths. Right, so we're starting with 1 whole unit. We're cutting it in half, we're cutting it in half, we're cutting it in half. And what it's doing to the amount of pieces that we have over here on the right side is multiplying them by 2. We have twice as many pieces that are needed to be used to make the entire unit, right? Okay. Really quick, let's talk about numerators and denominators. Okay, numerator. The numerator is the number on top of the fraction. Okay, numerator, number on the top. And what this means is it's the count of how many of those pieces that we have. The book defines it, how many of those parts are being described. So how many parts are being described. So if we only want one piece of, like only one fraction piece, then the number on top, the numerator, would only be 1, because that numerator is describing how many pieces we are using of those individual portions. So if we are taking 1/4 of the pizza, then we have 1 slice of the 4 total. If we want 3/8 of a pizza, then we would take those 3 first ones of the 8, and our fraction would be 3 divided by 8, because the number on top describes how many pieces we took or are being described. So that's the numerator. The denominator That is the number on the bottom. And this describes how many parts are needed to make a whole. So this is the number on the bottom. If we're working in 1/8, that bottom number 8 tells us how many pieces are needed to make the entire whole. Okay, and I see a lot of great work going on right now. So Katie, Camila, Sarah, Malia M, Jocelyn, Eileen, Fernando, Elizabeth, the ones I can see right now are all getting points for being on task. Nice job. So again, numerator, number on top, describes how many parts are being described. Right, if we have 3/4, that means that we have 3 individual pieces of 1/4 that will make up that portion of the unit. The number on the bottom, the denominator, is how many parts are needed to make a whole. So if we're working with a half here, that 2 on the bottom tells us there are 2 pieces that make the whole. If we're working with 1/4, that 4 in the denominator spot on the bottom shows that there are 4 pieces that are needed to make the whole. The 8 on the bottom in 1/8 tells us that there are 8 pieces that are needed to make the whole. Okay, so that's numerator and denominator. We'll be using those words a lot more frequently over the coming few days. Okay, any questions here? And it's important that you ask them now because this is what your homework is going to get into. It's going to extend on these skills that you worked on today. Okay, I don't see any new hands. There's a few people with hands up, but I don't know if they were left up from earlier or not. So Elizabeth and Araceli, if you have a question, then that's fine. But if not, then I'm going to have you put them down. So your homework here, 1.2 fractions represented. Okay, I want to see some thumbs up, sideways down as we go through this. We're going to look at one question at a time. We're not going to answer them, but I want to see thumbs up, sideways down as we work through it to be like, yes, thumbs up, I got it, I can do that. Thumb sideways is, I might need a little bit of help, or might need to talk about it tomorrow after I have a look at the homework. And thumbs down is, I'm totally lost. I'm going to need to rewatch the lesson from today when I post it on YouTube. Okay, so let's get into this. If the entire diagram represents 1, what fraction does each shaded part represent? So you're going to look at these, each of these pieces here, and you're going to tell me what fraction is represented by the shaded parts. Thumbs up, sideways down. Can you do that with a little bit of work looking at it? You can tell me what fraction the shaded part is. Awesome. I see almost all thumbs up. That's great. Let's look at problem number 2. Here are 4 other blank diagrams. Each diagram represents 1. So just like the paper strips that I had you draw on your workbook page, each of these diagrams represents 1. Partition or cut those shapes or each diagram and shade 1 part so that the shaded part represents the given fraction. So it says 1/6. They want you to partition this shape into 1/6 and shade in one of those portions. Could you do that for me? Thumbs up, sideways down. You could cut it into 1/6 and shade the appropriate number. Okay. Awesome. Let's look at this last one here, problem number 3. This is more of a challenge question. If you get stuck on it, that's okay. We can talk about it in class maybe tomorrow or the next day once I get a majority of the assignments back in. Suppose you are creating a representation of 1/20th using the same tape diagram. Would the shaded part be larger or smaller than the shaded part in the diagram of 1/10? Explain how you know. Okay, my hint to you is as you're working through problem number 3 and you're going from 1/6 to 1/8 to 1/10 to 1/12, I want you to pay attention to how many pieces there are that make up the diagram as you increase the denominator's value. So as you go from 6 to 8 to 10 to 12, I want you to use that pattern that you see to write what would happen if you had 1/20th. Okay, and if you struggle on it, that's okay. It's more of a challenge question at this point in time. So any questions? I know I'm taking a while to get through this. This is the very, very last thing we're going to do. So if you don't have questions, then I want to, looks like Elizabeth's Pokemon egg hatched. So we're going to celebrate Elizabeth and her achievement after we're done. And then I'm going to let you go and eat your lunch, okay? So any questions? Raise your hand if you have questions. Fernando, your hand's up. How can I help you?
I can't get on Clever or anything. All I can get on is Teams. My computer
Okay, so the
doesn't go
homework
to
assignment will be in Teams. The homework assignment will be in Teams, okay? So I might have you stay on and I can show you, since you're new to Teams and all that with the laptop, I'll show you how to get to your assignments.
I get everything. It's just that I can only get on Teams. Other stuff, it doesn't work. Like, I don't go home. I don't go to the home where it shows all
Okay.
the apps.
Okay. We'll talk after class. I'm going to stop the recording real fast.